Hello everyone, my name is Putusara Arendra, and now we will discuss chapter 9 about heat treatment of steels. And my main reference is a book that called Metallurgies for the Non-Metallurgists. And we next to chapter 9.1. 9.1 The Iron Carbon System. Steel are iron with a small amount of carbon alloying. Iron by itself has limited structural usefulness because it is soft, like most pure metals. One way to increase the strength of pure metal is to add appropriate alloying elements for solid solution strengthening. Carbon as a small interstitial element also can increase the strength of iron by solid solution hardening. However, solubility of carbon in iron is very limited, which imposes limits on solid solution hardening of iron with carbon. A more significant role of carbon is its effect on the formation and iron paste called antensionite. Iron is a allotropic element, which means that iron atoms change their crystal structure at some specific temperature known as transformation temperature. One crystal of iron is a body-centered cubic lattice that is stable from below room temperature to 912 degrees Celsius. This phase of BCC iron is known as a ferrite. Another phase of iron is a face-centered cubic lattice known as austenite or white iron, and occurs between 912 and 1394 degrees Celsius. And finally, another solid BCC phase known as a delta ferrite occurs from 1394 degrees Celsius to the melting point of iron. Carbon plays an important role in heat treatment because it expands the temperature range of austenite stability. Higher carbon content lowers the temperature need to austenize steels, such that iron atoms rearrange themselves to form an FCC lattice structure. Under normal conditions, austenite cannot exist at room temperature in plain carbon steels, but only at elevated temperature within the austenite area bounded by the lines emitted. Austenizing of steels is the first step in several different types of heat treatment, and the various kind of transformation structure that occurs when steel are cooled back down from the austenitic phase determine the resulting properties of steel. Austenizing can be the first part of annealing treatment or the first step in the quench hardening of steels. Carbon is almost insoluble in ferrite because the interstitial position available in the BCC lattice are not large enough to accommodate. However, carbon is more soluble in austenite because the larger interstices in the FCC lattice are considerably more accommodating to carbon. The solubility limit of carbon in a ferrite varies from 0.008% at minus 18 degrees Celsius or 0 degrees Fahrenheit to a maximum solubility limit of 0.022% at 727 degrees Celsius. In contrast, the maximum solubility of carbon is austenite is approximately 2%, when austenized steel is cool back down to the region of stable ferrite. The amount of dissolved carbon in the pure grains of austenite cannot be accommodated by the BCC lattice of the newly formed ferrite. Excess carbon thus must exit the ferrite grains during the phase transformation. During relatively slow cooling, the excess carbon atom move by diffusion and combine with iron to form a new paste called cementite. The cementite paste is a hard iron carbide with the chemical composition of Fe3C. For each atom of carbon in the compound, there are 3 atoms of iron, giving an atomic composition of 25% carbon. The corresponding weight percent carbon in cementite turns out to be 6.7 percent carbon. Cementite is a paste having atoms arranged in regularly repeating geometrical arrays. The crystal structure of cementite is an orthomorphic lattice, which is a bit more complex than either the BCC structure of ferrite or the FCC structure of austenite. But this is well known. Cementite is not completely stable because carbon ultimately decomposes into graphite over time. However, cementite is sufficiently stable to be considered as a near equilibrium paste that occurs when carbon level exceeds the solubility limit in iron. The morphology and distribution of cementite depends on the amount of carbon and on the time temperature history. A different mechanism of paste transformation occurs when steel is rapidly cooled from the austenitic phase back down to room temperature. During rapid quenching, there is not enough time to the carbon atom to rearrange themselves by diffusion. Therefore, some of the carbon atoms get trapped in the ferrite lattice, causing the composition to rise well above 0.02% solubility of carbon in ferrite. This causes lattice distortion, so much so that the distorted BCC lattice rapidly transforms into a new metastable paste called martensite. The unit cell of the martensite crystal is similar to the BCC unit cells, except that one is its edge, called the C-axis, is longer than the others two. The structure of martensite is called a body center tetragonal or BCT crystal structure. Martensite does not appear as a paste on the iron-carbon equilibrium phase diagram because it is a metastable paste that occurs from rapid cooling. Martensite is extremely hard and it is basis of the most steel hardening practice. 9.2 Common phase in steel. Heat treatment of steel requires an understanding of both the equilibrium phase and the metastable phase that occurs during heating and or cooling. For steels, the stable equilibrium phase includes ferrite, austenite, graphite, and to some extent cementite. As a very stable iron carbide, the metastable phase are pearlite, martensite, and bainite. The phase is submerged and describes more detail and these parts. 9.3 Critical temperature and transformation diagrams. The critical temperature of steel defined either than the onset of completion of phase transformation. 3 important critical temperatures in steel heat treatment are A1. critical temperature for the start of the transformation to austenite and the so-called eutectoid temperature, which is the minimum temperature required to austenite to form. A1 is also referred to as a lower critical temperature. So the second, A3, critical temperature for complete transformation of the A plus 2-base mixture into 100% austenite, referred to as the upper critical temperature. A3 is the high temperature boundary of the A plus solid solution phase region with carbon constant below the eutectoid composition of 0.77% carbon. And the last one is ACM, that is critical temperature for complete transformation of the G plus Fe3 2-base mixture into 100 austenite. The ACM critical temperature is the high temperature boundary of the cementite in solid solution with austenite in hypertectoid steels. Between A1 and A3 is the Curie temperature or O2. For transition between magnetic and non-magnetic ferrite, the A2 temperature is 770 degrees Celsius. One important factor is whether the steel is being heated and or cooled, and at the one rate, because diffusion is sluggish in solid, the rate of heating and cooling can be important factor determining the critical temperature for both the onset and completion of equilibrium transformation. Therefore, sometimes the subscripts C, R, and E are included to denote heating, cooling, or equilibrium condition. For example, critical temperature for the start and completion of the temperature to austenite under condition of thermal equilibrium are determined respectively by AA1 and AA3. For a given steel, the critical temperature depends on whether the steel is being heated or cooled. In practice, critical temperature occurs to a lower temperatures during cooling and that during heating, and depend on the rate of change temperature. The equilibrium critical temperature generally lie about midway between those for heating and cooling at equal rates, because annealing treatment may involve various ranges of heating and cooling rates in combination with isothermal treatment. The less specific term A1, A3, and ACM are used when discussing the basic concept. A4, annealing and normalizing. Heat treatment are not limited to just handling and tempering. Various annealing methods are useful in developing more uniform microstructure and other combination of properties. General annealing, thermal cycle, annealing cycle are vary according to the temperature and the method of cooling used. Annealing temperature may be classified as subcritical annealing, intercritical annealing, and supercritical annealing to achieve full austenitization of either hypo or hyper-eutectoid steels. Under certain conditions, two or more such cycles may be combined or used in succession to achieve the desired result. The success of any annealing operation depends on the proper choice and control of the thermal cycles. Based on the metallurgical principles discussed in the following section, subcritical annealing does not involve the formation of austenite. The prior condition of the steel is modified by such thermally activated process as recovery, recyclization, grain growth, and agglomeration of carbons. The prior history of the steel is therefore an important factor. Subcritical annealing is sometimes referred to as in-process annealing because such annealing occurs between other processing steps. In astral or false hypereutectol stills containing ferrite and perlite, subcritical annealing can adjust the hardness of both constituents, but excessively long times at temperature may be required for substantial softening. The subcritical treatment is most effective when applied to hardened or cooling wort stills, which cyclicise readily to form new ferrite grains. The rate of softening increases rapidly as the annealing temperature approaches A1. Cooling practice from the subcritical annealing temperature has very little effect on the stabilized microstructure and resultant property. Intercritical annealing, when the temperature exceeds the lower critical temperature or A1, austenite begins to form with an abrupt increase in carbon solubility. However, the equilibrium mixture of austenite is not achieved instantaneously. Therefore, heating during intercritical annealing is an important consideration in the development of annealed structure and properties. In hyperauthentic stills, for example, a more homogeneous structure is developed at higher temperature in the intercritical range. The more homogeneous structure developed at a higher authenticizing temperature tend to promote the mineral carbide structure on cooling, whereas lower authenticizing temperature in the intercritical range result in less homogeneous austenite, which promotes formation of spheroidal carbides. In hyperauthentic stills, intercritical annealing occurs in the two-phase region of cementite and austenite. One purpose of the annealing treatment in the range is to break up protectoid cementite that has formed a continuous networking along the boundaries of prior austenite grains. The benefit of intercritical annealing of hyperauthentic stills is to produce a more dispersed distribute of cementite with a spherical morphology. Because some austenite is present at temperature above A1, cooling practice through transformation is a crucial factor in achieving the desired microstructure and properties. Accordingly, stills heat above A1 are subject either to slow continuously cooling or to isothermal treatment at some temperature below A1, for which transformation to the desired microstructure can occur in a reasonable amount of time. Full annealing. The temperature for full annealing are typically 50 degrees Celsius above the upper critical temperature for hypoauthentic stills and the lower critical temperature for hyperauthentic toid stills. It is referred to as full annealing because it achieves full austenitization of hyperauthentic toid stills. The indicated temperature for full annealing are supercritical anneals for hypoauthentoid stills, but are in the range of intercritical anneal for hyperauthentoid stills. Full annealing produces a microstructure that is southern and more amenable to other processing such as forming or machining. In addition, stainless and high alloy steels may be austenized and quenched to minimize the presence of grain boundaries carbide or to improve the ferrite distribution. The temperature for full annealing in approximately the same range of austenitization temperature for water quenching. Both are below austenitization temperature for either normalizing or hardening by oil quenching. 9.5 Types of annealing treatment. Annealing treatment have various metallurgical purposes such as stress relief, recyclization, and periodization. The figure also includes the temperature region for the normalizing of steels, which is a heat treatment to improve the uniformity of steel microstructure. Stress relief annealing at subcritical temperature includes three different temperature regions. The first is the temperature range for stress relief annealing. Annealing involves uniform heating of a structure or portion, therefore, and holding at this temperature for a predetermined period of time, followed by uniform cooling. Stress relief temperatures are sufficiently high to have active to microstructural process of recovery, such that store internal stress energy in relay by rearrangement of dislocation into lower energy configuration without any change in the shape and orientation of grains. Stress relief heat treating is used to relieve stress from the cold working. Care must be taken to ensure uniform cooling, particularly when a component is composed of variable section size. If the rate of cooling is not constant and uniform, new residual stress can result that are equal to or greater than those that the heat treating process when intended to relieve. Stress relief heat treating can reduce distortion and high stress from welding that can affect service performance. The presence of residual stress can lead to stress corrosion cracking, near welds, and in regions of component that has been cold stressed during processing. Recyclization annealing, when cold works metal are heated to the sufficiently high temperature, the badly deformed cold work grains are replaced by new strain-free grains. This process is referred to recyclization, which is distinct from the recovery process during stress relief. At a constant temperature, the recovery starts rapidly and decreases with the time. On the other hand, recyclization, which is a nucleation and growth process, starts slowly and then boosts up to the maximum rate before rapidly leveling off. The recyclization annealing of steel is done at subcritical temperature. The recyclization annealing of cold work metals can produce a new grain structure without including a phase change. The recyclization temperature is often defined as the temperature required for the microstructure to undergo 50% recyclization in 30 minutes, and for complete recyclization is approximately 1 hour. True, there is the trade-off between time and temperature. Temperature is a much more dominant variable than time. Recyclization occurs more rapidly at high temperature. For most kinetic process, increasing the temperature by approximately 11 degrees Celsius doubles reaction rate. Once recyclization is complete, further heating causes grain growth to occur. The recyclization grain size depend on both the recyclization time and temperature, particularly the temperature. High temperature tend to promote large grain size. The temperature required for recyclization is not exact. It depends on the composition of the alloy and is particular to the amount of cold work performance. Therefore, recovery may affect the recyclization temperature because the tendency towards recyclization is lower when possible recovery has occurred. cases, a high temperature may then be required to cause recyclization. In addition, grain size affect the nucleation rate and the recyclization temperature. For equal amount of cold work, lower recyclization temperature and shorter recyclization times occur for fine grain metal that's in coarse grain metals. Spheroidizing, depending on the time temperature exposed of a steels, the cemented carbide in a steel can from different morphologies such as the laminar cemented of perlite or the network cemented along superior austenite grain boundaries in hyper-authentic toy steels. The shape and distribution of carbides can be modified by heat treatment and spheroidization treatment are used to produce carbides with a more spherical morphology because spherical shapes have low surface energy than angular shapes. The laminar shape of cemented in perlite changes morphology to form spheroid. Portion of the laminate pinch off to form a spheroid from the remaining portion of laminile. This process can occur a very long period of time. It can be accelerated by heat treatment depending on the steel. Spheroidized carbides can lead to improved machinability, throughness, and formability in hyper-authentic toy steels. Prolonged holding at the temperature just below AA1 acceleration, the process of spheroidization. The process may take several hours to improve the kinetic of full spheroidization. Some treatment involve heating and cooling alternative between temperatures that are just above AC1 and just below AR1. 9.6 Furnace heating and induction. Heating heat treatment of steel improve a wide variety of methods for annealing, normalizing, hardening, and tempering. Fuel fired or electrically heated furnace are used in a wide variety configuration with various media. Furnaces are also used for thermochemical treatment such as carburizing or nitriding. Induction heating is another important method of heating compared to furnace technique. Induction heating can often provide energy saving and much higher heating rates than convection, radiation, conduction, or even flame empitment process. Heat treating is a major application of induction heating, with surface hardening of steel and cast iron being most prevalent use. However, the induction heating is also applied to annealing, normalizing, through hardening, tempering, and stress relieving of a variety of workpiece. Furnace heating. Heat treating furnace can be generally classified as either batch or continuous furnace. The first is batch type furnace, where loads are placed in the furnace. The furnace and its loads are brought up to the temperature together, and depending on the process, the furnace may or may not be cooled before it is opened and the load removed. And the second, continuous type furnace, which operate in uninterrupted cycle as workpiece pass over a stationary head or the head itself move. 9.7 Hardening and tempering. Hardening of steel improve a three-step process of austenization, quenching, and tempering. Sometimes an additional step or cold treating is done at low temperature below the martensite finish temperature of steels. This ensures through martinistic transformation and the minimization of retrain austenite. Quenching refers to the process of rapidly cooling metal parts from the austenizing or solution threatening temperature, typically from within the range of 815 to 870 degrees Celsius for hardening medium and low carbon steels to temperature as high as 1232 degrees Celsius for hardening specific grades of high-speed steels. While stainless and high alloy steels may be quenched to minimize the presence of gram-bonded carbide or to improve the ferrite distribution. Most steel includes carbon. The alloy and tool steels are quenched to produce controlled amount of martensite in the microstructure. Fundamentally, the objective of the quenching process is to cool steels from the austenizing temperature quickly enough to form the designed microstructure, based sometimes by net, but more often martensite. The basic quenching function is to control the rate of heat transfer from the surface of the part by quenching. The rate of heat extraction by a quenching medium and the way it is substantially affect quenching performance. Variation of quenching practice have resulted the assignment of specific name to some quench technique. First one is direct quenching, time quenching, selective quenching, spray quenching, fog quenching, and intercurrent quenching. 8.1 Cold treating of steels. After hardening, some alloy retain a significant amount of austenite that does not transform to martensite. A good example of such a grade is D2 tool steels. It is not usual for D2 to have as much 20% retained austenite after undergoing standard heat treatment. This can lead to certain problems for parts that require high dimensional tolerance, because retained austenite can spontaneously transform to untempered martensite after time at room temperature. Because there is a dimensional change associated with this phase transformation, the physical size the component can change as a result. A stainless that does not completely transform after quenching may undergo a cold treatment or cryogenic treatment in order to increase the driving force for the transformation to reach completion. Cold treatment can help complete the transformation of austenite to martensite in the way. Immediate cold treatment without delays at room temperature or at other temperature during quenching under the best opportunity for maximum transformation to martensite. In some instances, however, there is a risk that this will cause cracking parts. Therefore, it is important to ensure that the grade of steel and the product design will tolerate immediate cold treating rather than immediate tempering. Some steels must be transferred to a tempering furnace when still warm to the touch to minimize the likelihood of cracking. 9.9 is a case hardening. Case hardening is a generic term used for several processes that part a hard, where resistant surface layer on a part. This combination of hard surface and resistant to breakage on impact is useful in parts such as cam or ring gear that must have a very hard surface to resist wear, along with a true interior to resist the impact that occurs during operation. Further, the surface hardening or still has an advantage over true hardening because less expensive. Low carbon and medium carbon steels can be surface hardened without the problems of distortion and cracking associated with the true hardening of thick section. There are two distinctly different approaches to the various methods for surface hardening. The first one is overlay and coating methods that involve an intentionally build up or addition for a new layer. And the last one is surface treatment that involves surface and subsurface modification without any intentional build up or increase in part dimension. And 9.10 is heat treating equipment. In simple terms, industrial heat treating furnaces are insulated and closer designed to deliver heat to workloads. For thermal processing, basic element of construction includes and other cells, refractory walls, hard roof, a surface of heat, and a means of accepting the workload, moving it through the furnace and removing it. Generally, furnaces are classified by heat source and by two broad categories, batch and continuous. Purified furnaces are most widely used, but electrically heated furnaces are used where they often advantages that cannot always be measured in terms of fuel costs. Various types of batch and continuous furnace are listed in the batch furnace are loaded without change, then closed for a pre-established heat cycle. And that's all for me. If you have a question, you can write below in the comment section. Okay, we just that and from me, and thank you.